Why, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Josie Dumont podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josie, and today I am super freaking excited to welcome Jess to the pod, who is a business and mindset coach and mentor, helping other business owners make more money whilst having more fun. And she's also a book lover, puzzle enthusiast, such a hard word for me to say, and a Diet Coke girlie.
Yes.
That's like, in terms of personal branding, that's what I remember, like those three things: books, puzzles, and Diet Coke. Now, you will forever be associated with those things for me.
I was going to bring one to this call, but I was like, do we want the Diet Coke burps on a podcast? Probably not.
We can cut them out, but if you want to have a Diet Coke, go for it. Anywho, so today we will be diving into one of my favorite topics, which is self-sabotage and what happens when you have subconscious blocks holding you back. And Jess, to start right off juicy, you have your very own first-hand experience of that, right? So what is your story on that, and how did it all get you to where you are today?
Oh, I love telling the story, which is so funny for anyone who is feeling like they're self-sabotaging. Know that there's a future version of you telling your success story on a podcast right now and enjoying every second of it. So that's the first lesson.
Love that.
So my story, I have been in business since 2021. I started my Instagram, my brand in 2020, but I didn't actually know I wanted to be a coach then. I'd looked at it years prior, but hadn't trained until late 2020 and launched it it's actually New Year's Eve on 2020 that I actually launched my business. But because of the brand that I'd built at the start of 2020 or throughout, as soon as I launched my business, I filled up quite quickly with clients, and it was very like hit the ground running. Oh my God, look at all this money I'm making. Like, I'm from a fine art background. I studied fine art at university, and I was a waitress and a hostess in restaurants. So I've literally had a job since I was 12, but you don't earn $4,000 in a month. It was my first month in business when you're working in a hairdresser's at age 12. So of course it was like, wow, I'm making all this money. Very quickly, this wasn't self-sabotage. This was just not knowing how to run a business, because I was not a business coach at this time. I had my first few clients from the personal brand that I'd built. They all knew me, and they'd built that trust. But then I didn't do any of the strategy that's first few months of 2021. So very quickly, that income did not stay sustained. I'm trying to cut the middle pieces out because they're not actually related to self-sabotage. Long story short, hired a coach at the end of 2021. By September 2022, I was winning Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and I'd gone from making £10 a month. I'd gone from making £10 a month mid 2021, so after my first few great months at the start of the year, to making £55,000 in 4 months at the end of 2022. So you can see how vast a difference. And 1 year is not a long time to regulate to that kind of change. Now, what ended up happening is I didn't know that I had a lot of self-worth pieces coming through, a lot of imposter syndrome. And I ended up at the start of 2022, if anyone remembers the coaching industry in 2022, the start of 2023, I feel like that was something must have been going on in the stars, because I feel like not everyone, a lot of people turned to mean girl marketing, tearing it down. I think a lot of people were struggling with success in their business, in the sense that what I seem to have seen is the people who are no longer in business now were often the people using the mean girl marketing. And it was probably like that last grasp of, I need to make some sales. Let me just try and put myself above everyone else. Probably subconsciously, no shade, I ended up getting very triggered by a few people in the industry, and what it did to my mindset and my action, I could not see for a good 9 months. And what I mean by that is I'd gone from making 10 to 15 to 20K all around that mark months consistently, 55K in basically a quarter, carried it over into 2023. And suddenly I lost all inspiration for the things that lit me up, like group programs and actually all of the needle movers that brought people into my higher level offers and brought those, one-to-one mastermind clients in. And for literally 9 months, I just dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped. And not just in income, but because I had a lot of recurring revenue. So I actually was making a lot of money, but I wasn't bringing any new cash in. But not just financially, mindset wise as well. I really reached a point towards the end of last year where I just did not see myself as someone that someone would want to hire. I did not believe in myself whatsoever. And it wasn't until I realized in a coaching session that what had happened in the January at the start of 2023, a lot like the way that I was seeing this hate pan out. And I do think some of it was aimed at me from certain individuals. It really triggered a lot of childhood experiences of bullying. And I've spoken about this on a lot of podcasts, but in high school, I can't help but yap.
I'm trying. Yap away. You have full yapping permission.
Yes. In high school, one of my experiences of my story is I was really passionate about like art, photography. I really wanted to be a photographer. And there was a lot of instances where people in my year would post statuses, taking pictures of things in like a quote unquote bad way, be like, am I Jess Pye yet? And, there was one time when someone uploaded loads of like really badly taken photos, because I used to upload like 100 pictures a day. I'll take the hit on that. I did. But obviously it was passion and it's what makes me say. But I remember being tagged in all these photos and basically literally being explicitly tagged in each individual photo. And of course it was just not nice. But what had been happening in the coaching industry was including Facebook groups and Facebook pages and tear down pages. And I didn't realize how similar it was to my experience in school. And so the reason why I share that is because it took me 9 months to realize that I'd been self-sabotaging my growth because it felt too unsafe to be seen, and it felt too unsafe to like my self-conscious subconscious had learned from that previous childhood experience. And actually one of the things, my coping mechanism in school was to completely ghost Facebook. And I actually used to set myself goals of like, how many days can I not post on Facebook for?
Wow.
I was really went into my shell. And the reason why I share that story is because I had no idea. And this is what I work on with a lot of my clients, of when we do that subconscious reprogramming and things like that, we often uncover memories that we didn't even remember, like we didn't even know were in our memories, or we totally overlooked. And so how it showed up for me was not feeling like I had anything good enough to say, not feeling like I wanted to bring new clients into my world, not celebrating my clients' wins, because what if someone tore me down for celebrating financial wins? I actually didn't even realize I was in my highest cash year yet, because I was so not willing to look at the wins, because that was dangerous for me. So that's my story. I'm sure I could go on, but I won't.
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that, and for also sharing like the painful part of it. Because I didn't know, because I haven't been in your world for that long yet. So I didn't know that yet. And I'm more like, wow, I would have never imagined that you toned down your voice because you didn't feel safe to express yourself because of the bullying. So I'm just like, big kudos at this point, first of all, for making this big shift, because I would never been able to tell that you have made this transformation. But what I kind of like want to know and dive a little bit into is, you already mentioned slightly how that showed up for you, but how did it feel? And also, how did you go about like noticing, okay, these actually are those symptoms that are coming from this kind of mindset? And then if you were to coach yourself through that, where would you start? Where would you help also your clients with, okay, let's start here, let's shed awareness on it, work through it?
Yeah. So I could hear noises in my flat, and I was like, what's going on? But I think it's just the wind. I was like, has the boyfriend come in because I put the chain on the door? So I think one of the biggest things that comes with self-sabotage, because obviously self-sabotage is the response, it's the action. I think one of the biggest pieces that comes before that is imposter syndrome. And I will put my hands up and say, I've been working through imposter syndrome as recently as 3 days ago. Like, it's something I'm still navigating. And I wish I could say it was healed, but actually it's still something that you peel back the layers from. And I think I read ADHD. I didn't read the full book. I read a bit of a book.
I can so relate.
Yeah. I will, as with non-fiction books, I'll just read a chapter when I feel like it. It's never start to finish. And I learned like quite a lot about imposter syndrome over this year around how many people suffer with it. And I actually was in a bar with some of my non-business friends, like my oldest friends, and I got up a list of imposter syndrome symptoms. And I said, before I showed them what it was, I said, like, can any of you relate to any of these? And everyone was like, every single one. And I was like, that is imposter syndrome. And it was so interesting because, you know, my corporate besties, they don't usually do the deeper mindset work, 'cause it's just not the industry they're in. And it's such like it's almost a requirement for us as business owners. And to see it show up outside of business and to see your friends who you see so highly experience the same is wild. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because imposter syndrome is so fucking annoying.
Yes.
And something that I wrote in my journal at the weekend was, oh, do you know what? I wrote it in my notes, and let me grab it up because it's going to come into my content at some point. It's in my pinned.
It's like hot off the press.
Yeah, hot off the press. It's easy to show up. I was thinking about how a lot of people can struggle to show up and sell on Instagram and run their business on Instagram. And you know, there's that classic, you know, choose your hard, but that constant consistency. What I was thinking about is it's not the action that's hard. It's the believing that you're worthy of the results that's hard. It's the constant, and basically what the two sentences I've written down is, it's easy to show up and sell using Instagram and do the strategies that create the results. It's not easy when you don't believe that you're worthy of the results. And what I've realized over literally the past week, I did a lot of a deep VIP day with a mentor on Friday, all about self-worth and imposter syndrome, is the inner critic, the you know, that negative Nancy, whatever we like to call her, can be so loud that you can't actually hear your true self and your true self-belief through it when you let it get so loud. And what I've noticed is I actually keep a list of imposter syndrome symptoms in my phone. So if I'm feeling a certain way, I can check it and go, okay, is this me or is this imposter syndrome? So like feeling like what I have to say isn't good enough. Okay, Jess, that's definitely imposter syndrome. We're going to do these things to shift it. And we're going to, you know, go and read through our testimonials or write a list of why we're like no-brainer, the person to go to. But one of the biggest things, and I hope this is answering your question, I don't know if it is, I'm going to say it anyway.
I'm sure it will be.
One of the biggest things that I noticed is obviously when we think of the reticular activating system, for anyone who doesn't know, the piece in your brain that filters through information into your mind. When we have imposter syndrome and we have that belief, let's just name it as I'm not good enough, your brain is going to filter through evidence that you're not good enough. And what I found specifically last year was I was having my clients were having incredible wins, but because that didn't match the belief of I'm not good enough, they were not filtering into my conscious awareness. I actually had 2 clients sit me down. They're my really close friends. So as a friend, they sat me down. They were like, you're not sharing our wins. Like, we were talking about imposter syndrome. We were like, I had not realized how much I'd stepped away from sharing my client wins because it didn't align with the belief that I wasn't good enough. And so I think one of the biggest things, it can stop you from creating the results because you don't then showcase yourself as the person to create with the results because you don't believe it in yourself.
That is so powerful, especially just knowing that it's almost like a filtering system through which you perceive your reality, right? And you are creating your reality because then subconsciously you are sabotaging yourself into stopping doing the things that worked before and that were like creating those amazing results, or to not even realize that you're not doing it.
Yeah. And that, I think that's what's the most difficult piece, is you don't realize you're doing it. And one of the things that I've navigated this year, which is funny because it's the actual opposite of that, is this fear of going back to that. And I think when you become aware that you've self-sabotaged, you can actually end up then micromanaging. And I had a mentor reflect this to me last week. She was like, I think you're micromanaging every action in your business out of fear that you're going to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
But what if you just trusted yourself to not repeat old patterns and followed what lit you up, followed what excited you? I think what can happen is if you take one day off when you've had a pattern of self-sabotaging in the past, it's like, oh, I must be self-sabotaging, and not just, you need a day off. So I think it's finding the balance between, is this evidence versus like evidence of self-sabotage again, versus am I actually trying to now micromanage every possible emotion that I feel out of fear that it's not going to be one that I've deemed the right one.
Yes. So to recap, to find out if you have like any symptoms for imposter syndrome, the awareness piece is so crucial. And I love that you have like that little list with imposter syndrome symptoms, and you go through it and you're like, is this me or is this imposter syndrome? Like, what is going on right now? And just doing that can already shed like so much light on what's going on. And then, as you say, you can take the conscious action of, well, is there actually proof like this is true? Like, where's the evidence? What is happening? How does this actually currently apply to what I am doing? Or what needs to shift? What can I release? What do I need to let go of? So I'm not holding myself back any longer, if that is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's coming back to your question of how do you spot it? The list is really great. So I have the list that's like from the book, and then my own symptoms that I've noted. And the biggest one, and I think this is one of the most damaging parts of self-sabotage, when you don't know you're self-sabotaging. So for anyone listening, and I actually think this is probably one of the top reasons why coaches stop their business or leave their business, is it drains you of all motivation and passion and inspiration, because you've got such a loud voice in your head, which you might not even realize is saying, you're not good enough, you can't handle this, you're not going to be able to do this. I have written in this list, and I've said this to a friend who was going through the same thing. I said, if you're not waking up every day excited to dive into your business, whatever state you're in right now is not your natural state, because your natural state is that pure excitement of anything can happen. When you are in a slump or a slower season, or the shit's hitting the fan season, because it always have to be self-sabotage. It could be client issues or personal life issues. But if you are feeling like that spark has been lost, know that that is not your natural state, which means you will be able to get back to that natural state. Can't give you the exact path, but just the awareness of, okay, something isn't right. Now I'm on the journey of finding out what that thing is so I can shift it and dissolve it.
That is so crucial. Just having this, it's almost how I describe it sometimes. It's like a traffic light or alarm that goes off, and it's like, hang on, Jess, Josie, something needs changing. Something ain't right. We lost our mojo. Like, what is going on? This is not our normal. This is not how we want to operate, how we should. So it's really like a great message and reminder to ourselves, like, hey, something needs changing. What can we do about this?
Yep. And because I think when you're in that energy, it can go day by day by day. Next thing you know, it's been months, and now you think that is your natural state because you've forgotten what the original state was.
So did you ever have like a situation where you then maybe forgot your natural state, and where you really got into a slump and you were like just confused by what was going on? And like, is this imposter syndrome? Is this self-sabotage? Is it just because maybe something happened? And then how did you get you yourself out of that slump again?
So I feel like the way that it happened was very bit by bit by bit. Now there was a lot of things that played into it, beliefs around, will my friends abandon me if I make loads of money? Will my parents not want to support me? And there was a lot of beliefs that thankfully I've worked through and really, with communication and openness with those people, been able to dissolve. But I think they got to a point where it's quite hard to think back, because I would say like last summer, like towards the end, the autumn time was probably the worst part of it, but it's also because I'd gone full time in my business at the same time.
Which is a
So
scary
not
step.
only, yeah, and I'd gone full time way prematurely in 2021 when I was having my £10 months, because she was Delulu and she just thought she'd manifest her way through it, and it didn't work because I'm a
Welcome to
stability
the club.
Yeah. Me, a Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Venus, decided to throw caution to the wind and quit my job with no savings. Who did I think I was? But I studied a certification and a coaching certification, and in that you had peer coaches, so you were coached by someone else. And honestly, it was just this penny drop moment where we realized what was happening. But I actually feel like I was so lost that I honestly couldn't have told you that I was in a low season. I actually think I was like quite depressed, to be honest. Like everything dropped off. My health, I was smoking weed all the time, like literally everything. And I think it was this like avoidance, like absolute avoidance of the thing that I feared the most, which was being abandoned or feeling unsafe or feeling like all of the stuff, the triggers from childhood. But I think when the mini mind that I'm launching now for the second intake, the first round that launched in March, and it was actually born from a conversation that I had with my boyfriend. So he is a salesman. He is amazing at what he does. And it's like having a mentor living with me, which
That's
is great.
amazing.
It's honestly, some of the conversations we've had, I would pay thousands for. And he's cutthroat because he's a salesman in the top tech firm, whatever. I don't know if he'll want me to share all of his details, but just sharing all of his important details there. And we ended up sitting down and realizing there was a huge gap in my offer suite. And very quickly, I went into a big launch of the mini mind. And after I'd been building my income back up with new sales and new cash, but the launch of the mini mind, it was a 10K day. It was my highest day in business I'd ever had in sales. And it really felt like, wow, I'm back. And the love that I have for this mini mind and the way that I ran it and everything about it is, I feel like that is what made me realize, wow, something was off. Something was off. And I'd gone really back into our best self habits. And I know you are the best self queen. But like they actually make such a difference. I was like, of course I felt like shit when I was waking up at 10 a.m. every day, getting high pretty much every night, eating shit. Like, of course, I was vaping. I don't vape anymore. Like, I literally was like, I know, big win.
Yeah.
But that I am so with you on the best self pieces, because they make you feel the best version of yourself, which then obviously ripple effects into the way you show up in business, the ideas you have for business. I was waking up before the mini mind started. I knew I needed to stretch my capacity to take on more clients. And it's so simple, but it's, again, I would say, just to really bring it back there, if you are feeling like you have some sort of imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, look at how you're looking after yourself first. Start there. Start with your fitness and your health and your hydration and the things that you know aren't serving you. Start small if you need to, because you're not feeling great at the moment. If you do resonate with this, my heart goes out to you. Go on a walk. Like, make it as simple as that. Bring a new habit in. You'd be surprised how much can happen when you stop avoiding the emotions and the feelings and the beliefs that you're feeling, because they're not going to go anywhere unless you do look at them. But it can feel like the hardest thing to do in the world.
I love what you're pointing out there by coming back into your body when you are in a slump like that, not just in a way of disrupting like the thought patterns you are in, like maybe the downward cycle of that inner self critic where you just go down the spiral and you're like everything gets worse and worse and worse, but you're disrupting that by going into your body, but also from the perspective of nurturing your vessel, your temple again. So you actually have the energy to get out there again, to really do something again. And the other piece that actually feeds into this as well, and that just came up for me, was by doing that, by getting into your body, you actually get present with it. You finally sit with it. You're alone with yourself and you cannot ignore it any longer. So I would add also to, if you go for a walk, don't go with a podcast or music on your ears, just go with yourself and have a conversation with you. Just spend that time with yourself so you get to know yourself on a different level, create that self-awareness around what are these thoughts, what is happening, where can I tap back into my best self, what is the gap, what do I need to bridge, who am I becoming also on this journey, or who have I not been becoming on this journey when I have been self-sabotaging.
It's also really funny. This links to something that's been on my mind a lot and something that I want to do. One of my oldest and best friends is currently going through a breakup, and we all know.
So hard.
No, I mean, she's thriving. She is thriving. Amazing. But it's got me really thinking about the post-breakup glow up. Now, I'm in very solid, almost 5-year relationship. So there's no breakup on the horizon for me, we hope. But touch wood. But what I realized was, why do we wait until something massive happens like that in order to choose to glow up? And something that I've been deciding to do recently, just to even tap into the best self beyond the business as well, is what would my glow up look like? And not even just with like, get a haircut, put fake tan on. It's like, I love traveling. And so when I'm solo traveling, I'll always go for dinner by myself. Like, I am so happy on my own. So it's like, why don't I do that in Manchester? Why can't I go for a cocktail by myself in Manchester, or do stuff for the plot? Not in such a YOLO fashion of like, I'm single, let's fucking like follow those like exciting pieces and let your sorry, so many noises in this flat today.
It's okay.
Follow your like desires for your mind, body, soul glow up. If you feel like you're in a slump, give yourself a glow up. Whether that feels like a nicer way of going, I'm going back to my best self habits. Sometimes that can feel a bit like regimented. It's time for a glow up, bestie. Like, something that I have named it for me, which is really cringe, is I can't believe I'm talking about this publicly because this has been so private the whole since like I named it. When I was stepping out of my imposter syndrome era in March time, I went to a retreat and I was talking about how in university, do you know the term big name on campus?
Yes.
Like BOC. Yeah. So obviously never used it, but upon reflection, I was like, wow, everyone knew who I was. Everyone was my friend. I felt really popular at school, at uni, but I never believed it and I never saw it because I wasn't popular in school. So I just like had all those narratives. So I was like, in business, I'm entering my big name on campus era and I'm just going to act. Yeah. And I really saw so much happen in that season because I believed it and I showed up that way. And literally just today, I wrote on my story, step back into your BNOC era, bestie. Like, what if you just decided to act like the popular girl or the big name on campus and the person who's glowing up? It doesn't have to feel regimented or structured or something that you're punishing yourself with. It's something that you're pouring into yourself with.
Exactly. And I feel like that's the important part. It's not something that should feel like something you're forcing yourself into. We want this to feel expansive and like freeing and like nourishing, like so deeply that you truly just feel it in every fiber of your body. And I love the question that you put there. And I want to repeat that again. What would your glow up look like? And I want to put that as like the cliffhanger for the listeners and watchers and be like, comment, send us your answer if you want to as well. Yeah. What would your glow up look like? And why wait for anything bad to happen, for being fed up with shit? Like, do it now. Even if you feel great,
And
maybe still do it.
yeah. And, if you are in a relationship, often that glow up comes from this like, fuck you energy, or this like, even a potential validation energy of like, look what they've lost.
Mm.
Do it for you. Like, do it for you. And you don't have to wait till everything you're at rock bottom to do that. You get to do that at any point. And like, I just want us all to enter our glow up era for no other reason than we feel like it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Amen to that. Amen to that, Jess.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, we have still a fire round of questions if you're up for it.
I'm so ready.
Yes, let's do it. Okay. Before we dive into it, please let me know a number between 1 and 10.
8.
Okay, you get 8 questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready.
Okay. What is the Jess way of living and leading your best life?
Is it one sentence or one word?
One sentence, or like one short sentence or one word, but also do it your way.
Okay. Freedom, fun, money, vulnerability / authenticity.
Do you know what I love about this answer? I feel like you ticked all of these boxes in this episode. You literally just embodied it.
Yeah. And I feel, do you know what? You're the second person on a podcast to say how much of an embodiment of it I am, which is a really nice thing to reflect on. But with the vulnerability piece, I realize how deeply being vulnerable for me is authenticity. It's not for everyone. It's not the only answer, but it's really, I feel like I feel the most me when I am sharing those deeper parts of myself.
Same. I can so relate to that. Okay, but before we digress, second question. When shit hits the fan, what do you tell yourself to get through it?
Oh, such a good question. This will be a great teaching point for my clients.
Come at us.
It's giving third line.
I love that. What is your key habit for success?
Key habit for success. Choosing. I actually do want to go deeper on that. I feel like business is like a relationship. And, when everyone says, obviously you want the love there and you want the respect there and the desire there, but you do choose to be in the relationship every single day. And not every day feels the same. And not every day has the same dopamine. Some days you're just chilling, watching Love is Blind. Other days you're doing what I'm going to be doing in 2 weeks at Siam Park in Tenerife. But every day you choose that no matter what, you're going to be there. And I think for business, it's the same. Not every day is a 10K day. Not every day is I've signed a client day, but you choose to show up anyway.
Oh, I feel like that in itself could be like a podcast episode, but I have so much to add, but let's not. What is your favorite book that you would recommend to everyone?
Oh, fuck. You know what? I'm going to go classic. A Court of Thorns and Roses, the series. It's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's fantasy fiction. It's the most bingeable series you'll ever read. Me and my friend on holiday were talking about how we did not used to read.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my 18th, 19th book of the year now from not even reading. And my friend Bryony, she literally did not read. Like, I was a reader still. She has read more books than me now.
What?
Just because of that.
Wow.
It's like a gateway book into becoming obsessed with reading. So 100% that book. It's if you're on Book Talk, it's a classic, but it's a classic for a reason.
I love that. I haven't read it yet, so I need to do it. And I'm a book lover.
You'll never put your book down again. Next thing you know, you'll be Kindle with the stand and the page clicker.
I do have my Kindle. I do have like lots of books. The thing though is like right now I'm reading like those self-help books, or like not self-help, but like books like this, like Disciplines of Execution. So they are not the most like enticing books. So I've started 3 or 4 at once, and every now and then I'm like reading a little bit here, a little bit there. But
I've seen a lot of people actually talk about how they swapped self-help for fiction and fantasy fiction, and their mental health got better. Now, obviously, it's not the business thing, but like, it's such a great escapism. So if I recommend anything, non-fiction in the morning, fiction in the evening, because fiction's easier to send you to sleep, but non-fiction sparks your brain alive, you know. But
that is
Damien, anyone who wants to talk books with me, please come into my DMs.
I love that. Okay, what is a word or expression that you say all the time?
Fun and money, baby. Fun and money business. It is the Jess Pye way.
Love it. What is the theme song of your life or your current season?
Okay. I'm actually going to say my theme song, and it's got such a special place in my heart. I don't even necessarily like the song anymore. Know Your Worth by Khalid. Do you know the song? Yeah. In 2020, when I used to live, I know this is way more than one word or sentence, but
it's okay.
Yapper. In 2020, when I was just like prepping to launch my business, I lived in my parents' house, not the best environment. And I would listen to this song. And for some reason, when listening to song, I was like, when I move into my own flat, I'm going to play this song the day I move in. And I'm going to have moved in because of my business. And I'm going to think about how I've created this. And 4 years later, I cannot listen to that song without taking a pause to think about how far I've come. And it's so nice because if it comes on in public, I'll sit and I'll just go, how much has happened in the past 4 years? Look at what my life is now. And it's amazing. And then if I want a high vibe in the morning, I just put that song on because it's instantly now. It's like my DNA is calibrated to reflect on all of the positives.
Oh, I love that. I love when like a song becomes like so meaningful and you just instantly get like that sensation, that just like embodiment of, fuck, I've done it. I've changed so much for myself for the better.
And I think as well, when you listen to it in hard times, you think about, okay, well, I got through that hard time and I'll get through this one. But then when you listen to it on the good days, you're like, I've fucking done it. And there's going to be hard, you know, there's going to be the ups and the downs, but it's that like anchor. Oh,
it even gives me goosebumps. I love it. I love it. What is your main takeaway from this episode?
My main takeaway, the first thing that came up was there's still work to do. Because there's still moments where I've noticed I'm like that little bit of imposter syndrome coming through, or that like little voice in your head going, oh, it's not like, or like, do I sound smart enough? Or do I sound, you know, do I feel like I just like I know what I'm talking about? And I think it's actually really nice to know that, because I think that if you get to a point where you think the work's done, that's when you start to revert back, because it's like when you go to the gym to get a 6-pack and then you've got the 6-pack and you stop going. Not that I've ever
doesn't stay.
But yeah, as soon as you get to your boots, you get in your ego of, oh, the work's done. The work is never done, babes, in the best way possible. It's like what I posted today about the always a student. You're always going to have stuff to learn.
That is so true. And it is so fitting to also for me for today, because I had a coaching session today and I was like, yeah, there is still work to be done. Like there's still things that I can work on my mindset, on imposter syndrome, of self-trust, all of those things. Like just because I'm a coach and I specialize on those topics doesn't mean I don't have to do any work on that, or that I know all of the answers. Like, no, I might be, or you might be like a couple steps ahead, but the work is still there. It still needs to be done.
And especially when it's that subconscious work, like as I said about frequency imprinting, in that subconscious reprogramming, you dissolve one memory, but there could be 15 memories that contributed to the same narrative. And each one is reinforcing a belief. And so, the work is never done on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, never mind a conscious level, or the other way around, sure. You know what I mean?
I'm sure everybody knows. Okay, last question is, What job would you do in an alternate universe if you couldn't be coaching?
Oh, I have so many. I'm a third line. Like, I think about this all the time, because when I went to uni, I was like, if I didn't do fine art, I would have done history. But now I'm like, I'd love to do a master's in like psychology. But then I studied fine art, like I'm an artist. I don't think I actually enjoyed practicing art as much as I just liked the concepts, and the concepts are the same concepts as I use in business now. So it was probably just the wrong medium. Um, I think probably like a fiction writer. Like I'd love to be really talented I used to love writing in high school, like fiction. I would love to be like a fiction writer. I don't know what that would entail, but I think I could imagine myself sitting in a coffee shop writing my manuscript or whatever you call them.
Ooh, okay. There's one bonus question. What would stop you from doing that in this life and in this universe?
So book writing is definitely not out of the question, but that's all I'm saying right now. But fiction book writing, I don't think I have the attention span. Like I love I'm very, very creative all the time. I'm always drawing, always colouring in. I had a crochet hyperfixation at the start of the year. I made one bag, I never touched it again. But I think there's a very big piece of me that likes to keep my business and my like money makers and my hobbies separate, because once I start mixing them, I lose interest very quickly, which is why my business often has so many different offers, so that I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. I don't think unless it was a very deep core decision that I made, I can't see myself staying committed to something that's like a storyline and like the deep ins and outs for long enough for it to actually be published. But who knows? Who
That's the
knows?
thing.
I'm not against it. Yeah.
Never say never.
Literally never say never. And maybe I just need to read a few more books and then the inspiration will hit.
Well, let's see. I mean, you already hinted maybe there is something, so we should all keep our peepers peeled.
But then again, I'm trying to keep my mouth shut about certain things because the hyperfixation be hyperfixating and we don't know.
And when it stops, then it's like, well.
Yeah. And when it stops, it's like pulling teeth.
Oh, yes, I can so feel with that. Okay, this literally wraps up this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing, being vulnerable, for showing up, for being authentic, and for just doing your magic and for sharing your magic with everyone. For others to find you, where can they find you best?
So, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved this conversation. Like, it's been so much fun, and I love how we can talk about business, but it really kind of feels like we're not talking about business. And I really like this kind of conversations. Where you can find me, very easy. My Instagram is the Jessica Pye, which was also the name is a product from my BNOC era, because I used to be called a different name. And I was like, no, I am the Jessica Pye.
Yes.
So you can find me on there. I'm on Threads. I have loads of free offers in my bio. Josie, you can vouch for how amazing my free offers are.
They're incredible, especially the BOC.
Yes, Booked Out Coach was amazing. And come and join my world. We have so much. We have the Fun and Money membership. We have the Mini Mind. Obviously, the Mini Mind, we start. I'm not sure when this will be launched, but we'll be starting live in September. And just in general, it's a great place to be. My Instagram, my world, and I'd love to have you. And please come and talk to me about fantasy books and your glow up list.
Yes, please do. I will obviously also put all of the information and the links into the description box below. So for everyone listening or watching, you can find all of the information there. So do say hi. And with that, we shall wrap up. And I see and hear everybody again next week with another episode. Bye.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to this. Honestly, like I feel like the energy is so good. I feel Don't know what my cycle's saying, but it feels like I'm in ovulation or follicular, so I'm ready to go.
Okay, love that. I love that energy. Let's do it.